Hi, friends. So, I want to respond to Rachel's invitation to talk about what it's like when people find out I'm a philosophy professor, when I tell people I'm a philosopher, right? And it's kind of a thing that I think a lot of philosophy professors dread in a way, because the reactions tend to be kind of difficult to deal with, right? They tend to not be things that we're well prepared for by our professional development. So, first off, there are just a number of confusions that might happen. I think because philosophy, unlike a lot of the other sort of humanities and social sciences disciplines, are not things that you're exposed to at all in high school, right? So, not like, unlike writing or English or history or various aspects of social studies, you're not really exposed to what philosophy is in a standard American high school curriculum, unless you're, in an IB school or some other unusual curriculum like that, right? Um, so there's confusions. Like one confusion that's relatively common is that people don't see the difference between philosophy and psychology, right? So they start asking you questions about basically psychological or psychiatric kind of psychotherapeutic questions. And you have to explain, well, that's not really the same. Although, it's interesting that if we were talking, 200 years ago, that distinction between psychology and philosophy actually didn't really exist per se. It's a very late 19th century distinction to draw, the distinction between philosophy and psychology. And it's true that in that late 19th and early 20th century, philosophy and psychology did a lot of work to disentangle one from the other, disentangle from each other for better or worse. But that's a relatively new intellectual development. Okay, so I'm not a psychologist. Um, the second kinds of confusion I think that often arises when you tell someone that you're a philosopher, you're a philosophy professor, is they want to talk to you about the meaning of life, right? So tell me, what's your personal philosophy? What's the meaning of life? And that's actually not something that a lot of professional philosophers are well prepared to talk about. There are discussions in philosophy of the meaning of life. That is a thing that does happen, but it's not really the center of our business either, right? Those kinds of things that are common in sort of broad religious discussions and sort of popular discussions that might be categorized as philosophy. Those kinds of things aren't central to professional philosophy. So, um, in fact, when I'm asked if what do I do, or what do you teach, I often say, I teach history and philosophy. Um, I say that because it's true. I teach a course on history and philosophy of science. I've taught also history courses on sort of the historiography of philosophy. Um, but and I'm the program head right now of a history and philosophy program. But in part, I say it because history is a more familiar discipline, and so people who are uncomfortable talking about academic subjects, they hear history and they kind of know how to scan that, right? They know what that means. Um, in terms of our earlier discussion of expertise, I think it's interesting to think about my identity as a philosopher because it does raise the question if I'm not here to help you sort of think about your personal sort of psychological problems, if I'm not here to help you figure out the meaning of life, what exactly is my expertise? What is the expertise of a philosopher? Um, unlike a lot of humanities professors, philosophers don't necessarily have a kind of archive of texts that we're masters of. If we focus on the history of philosophy, yes, then we might have more of that sort of thing in our area of expertise. But if I am just working in the philosophy of science, which is my area, or epistemology or ethics. I've read a lot of things. I know a lot of the contemporary ideas and historical ideas about those things, but I might not have any kind of specific archive that I'm the master of. So that's one thing, right? Um, I'm not a scientist, right? I'm not an expert in methodologies for uncovering natural phenomena or testing natural phenomena or theories about natural phenomena. I don't gather new facts. I don't um, uh, propose theories that explain those facts necessarily. Although, there are facts that are relevant and theories that are relevant, of course. Um, so, what a philosopher in a way is really good at is asking questions, thinking through complicated ideas, um, uh, argumentation, constructing a case for a viewpoint or deconstructing a case for a viewpoint, as the case may be. Um, it's a set of skills, really, more than an area of content knowledge, right? And so, as an expertise, it's almost more like being an expert musician or athlete than it is being an expert in many kinds of academic sense, being the master over an area of factual or theoretical knowledge or of some kind, right? Um, so that's my experience with talking to people about what I do. Um, I hope you find that interesting. I look forward to hearing from you later this week, friends. Stay safe and have a good week.